Hi everybody, I'm Tony E at Show IP Interface Brief, and today is day 49 of the 100 Days of Labbing Journey. We have one more day till we are halfway through the journey, and holy cow. The panic is starting to set in, and it is starting to set in deep. Tonight I worked on the lab of my own design that I've been working on for the past couple of days, and I've had to actually troubleshoot a few things. So if anyone was following from yesterday, I had an issue where non-encapsulated LDP through the switches would not form an adjacency with their neighbors. So there was some discussion in the LAN Tamer Discord server, which there's a link in the description below. And one of the members there recommended turning on, or rather turning off, IGMP snooping on the switches. Said that he had seen that same issue, that he'd watched my video last night and he saw the same issue. And how he combated it before was turning off IGMP snooping. And as soon as I did that, it worked. It worked flawlessly. So actually, I'm going to go over that as a demo and also introduce something else that I ended up troubleshooting for quite a while. In the end, I got my full topology built. It wasn't a very complex topology, not at all, but it does cover a lot of technologies and a lot of ways to configure things. It uses only named EIGRP, and I'll show you that. So let me pull up the topology and see if I can get my pen. Okay, so if anyone was following from yesterday, this is the topology, and specifically this area is what was giving me trouble yesterday. And so I did make some changes today. For one, I turned on, in between router 6 and router 1 are 2 switches. And on, actually, I think there are 3 switches, as a matter of fact. There are 3 switches in the path. Between router 6 and router 1. I turned on, or rather turned off, IGMP snooping on those, and I could then form an LDP adjacency across the link. Now remember, yesterday my workaround for that was to do a targeted LDP session, which is essentially just a static neighbor. And that worked fine because it was sending unicast. Whereas if you just turn on MPLS on an interface and you're using LDP, it's going to be multicast. It's going to send to the all routers multicast. Okay, so I did get the adjacency up across here, which was perfect, exactly what I wanted. And I built my VRF on I guess here on router 6, which was router 2 is hosting our shared services, as well as on router 5, 2 VRFs. One was customer A, one was customer B, and each one just had a loop back. In the case of router 3, it was 3233. In the case of router 4, it was 4444. And our shared services was a loop back on router 2, which was 2222. So the idea here was I wanted end-to-end reachability between 3 to 2 and from 4 to 2. And I was configuring a multi-protocol BGP. So what I ran into today, the issue I ran into today, was over this PPPoE link. This was already configured and working fine. So I did PPPoE. I also did OSPF across the link. And that was up, as well as I had BGP up between router 5 and router 1, and router 6 and router 1. And I made router 1 the route reflector for both router 6 and router 5. So everything is working just fine. And in fact, I also turned on I guess MPLS IP, which is using LDP. And LDP formed an adjacency across this link. So there was a lot going across that link. However, once I got my VRF stood up and I got my BGP and I'm exchanging prefixes all the way across the topology, so router 3 can see router 2's loopbacks, router 4 can see router 2's loopbacks, router 2 can see router 3 and router 4's loopbacks. Everything just as designed. Again, a pretty basic topology. I'm not doing any complex filtering or anything. But when I went to initiate a ping from router 2, I didn't get any replies. And likewise, from router 3 and router 4 towards router 2, I didn't get any replies either. So what I went ahead and did was sort of a long path of troubleshooting. But this is how I like to troubleshoot things, especially here in a lab, right? This is an opportunity to learn. So I initiated a ping from router 2. And I went ahead and listened on this interface on Wireshark and saw that my packets were leaving and I wasn't getting any return packets. No problem. So I went ahead and listened on this interface on router 6. And I went ahead and saw that my packets were actually ingressing and egressing because I was listening on a physical interface and we have sub interfaces. So this is really a router on a stick model. So I was seeing the packets ingressing, which was actually coming in this sub interface and out this sub interface just fine. So I went ahead and went on router 1 and I did the same thing and I saw the packets were getting handed over to router 5. And when I went ahead and started listening on router 5, I would see that a packet ingresses this sub interface, egresses this sub interface, and that a reply comes back and it stops. And it never goes any further. Router 5 never forwards the packet on. And I couldn't really figure out why that was, but I had honed in on when I looked at the show MPLS forwarding table, I only had one label in there. When looking at this topology, I should have one. I should have a label for this link between router 1 and router 6. I should have a label for router 6's. I should not have a label for here, a remote label, and I should not have a remote label, I don't think, for router 1's loopback because that is only one hop away. So we would be popping. But I didn't see that initially. And so I really didn't get to the root cause of the problem. But I can tell you this, that router 5's MPLS forwarding table and router 6's MPLS forwarding table should be nearly identical, right? Because they are equidistant from router 1. They have the same. They should have sort of mirror image information of each other, and they didn't, right? So when I got onto router 6, I saw a label for this link, a label for router 5's loopback. But when I got on router 5, I did not see the opposite direction. So I went ahead and just stripped off PPPoE. So let's see if I can just kind of draw this here. I stripped off PPPoE, reconfigured the IP address directly on the interfaces, turned on OSPF again, turned on LDP, which was MPLS. OSPF came up right away. LDP came up right away. Also, I had BGP that needed to reconverge. That came up right away. So everything came up right away. And as soon as that happened, I sourced a ping from router 2, destined for router 3. Boom, boom. Just like it was designed. So I actually don't know what the cause is of why I couldn't get labels generated on router 5 over this PPPoE link. If anyone has a clue or can point me to a link or some Cisco documentation or anything that would help me with that, that would be greatly appreciated. I searched Cisco's forums tonight and didn't see a post related to running MPLS over PPPoE. I know it would be impossible for me to be the first person to do this, as old as these technologies are. But I couldn't find a reference in about the first page of results. So if anyone has an old link saved or an old reference link, I'd love to see it. Because I want to get to the root cause of why router 5 did not generate labels for anything beyond router 1. So if I do pull up the topology, which we can do, router 2 is my remote side. You guys just saw the topology, so let's do ping. We're going to do ping router 3's loopback, and we'll source from 2's. And it's just perfect. If we do a trace route, we should see a couple of MPLS labels exchanged. And there we go. That's exactly what we expect to see. If I get on router 5 now that everything is working and I do show MPLS forwarding, I see that I have some pop labels here, which is what I expect, right? So we're going to pop the label for router 1's loopback. We're going to pop the label for the directly connected upstream interface of router 1, and we are going to have a label for router 6, which is more than one hop away. Before, when I had the PPPoE interface configured on router 5, I did not see this. In fact, I think I had only one label, and it was for this link right here. It was very strange indeed. So now if I get over on router 6, they should sort of mirror each other a bit. Show MPLS forwarding. Pull one over on this side, one over on that side. So it's not exact, right? But it's pretty close for the information that they have. So this is exactly what I would expect to see. I see a label for, and this is from router 6 point of view, I see a label for router 5's loopback because it's more than one hop away. I'm popping off the directly connected labels, and then I'm not generating a label for this one. This is inside of our VPN. So that's about it. That's it. So I troubleshot that tonight. I got full connectivity throughout my topology. So something I wanted to point out, you know, most of you who are familiar with building labs all day are very familiar with this, but if we take a look at this topology, and let's see if I can just, can I clear the screen an easy way? No. I wanted to kind of manually draw the logical path over top of the physical virtual gear. So if I'm pinging from 2 to 3, you see this logical path that it has to take, correct? It's 2 to 6 to 1 to 5 to 3. Now if we go back to the physical, or I guess the virtual physical, what we have here is going from 2 to 6 is going to go this way. Then it was 6 to 1, which is going to go back. Then from 1 to 5. Then from 5 to 3. Right? And that's because this switch here is the route for all of the VLANs. So I just kind of wanted to show that, because as we crisscross through there, you know, we need to be mindful of many things. We need to be mindful of VLANs. Need to make sure we have a layer 2 path through everything. So your layer 2 foundation, your layer 2 topology, take the routers off of it. Your layer 2 topology has to work to begin with. And that's something that I remember from being in a couple of boot camps, that anytime layer 2 would come up, unless folks worked with switching often, was a real struggle for most, including myself. I'd say I was probably medium on the comfortability level, whereas I saw a lot of other folks in CCIE boot camps that were not very comfortable with layer 2. They say, I just deal with routing all day, you know. And that's fine, but this is a routing and switching test, so you need to know switching as well. And that's why I build these labs like this, so it really drives home the configuration, gives us a lot to think about. I did turn off the IGMP snooping on a per VLAN configuration. So to do that on a VLAN, I would do, first of all, I can do show IP IGMP snooping VLAN 16. I know that I have it off, and you see here it is disabled specifically for that VLAN. However, it is enabled globally, right? So it is on for all the other VLANs. I've just turned it off specifically. And to do that was no IP IGMP snooping VLAN and put in your VLAN number. So I went ahead and did it for VLAN 16 and 15 were the two VLANs that I needed to turn it off. And as soon as I turned it off, LDP came up. No problem. And so that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I don't think I'll be working this topology again before Sunday. Sunday's going to be the big lab day for me, guys. So if anyone wants to lab along, I think I'm going to go back and sort of double back on my labs. And I think I want to do one of the foundation labs, one of the configuration foundation labs, either foundation lab 1 or 2. I think I completed one pretty easily, and actually I don't think I want to do that one. I think it might not give me the kind of challenge I'm looking for. I don't think I did very well in configuration lab 2 or 3, so I might do one of those. The point being is I've done those labs and I've graded myself. And even though I've done the labs, doing them again, I don't feel like I'm familiar with any part of the lab. Like I don't feel like I've memorized any part of it. But I will definitely, I'm going to stick to a two lab rule, which is you can only do any one lab 2 times. After that, your brain starts to remember part of it. Even if you wait a long time, your brain starts to remember some of it. And I don't want to get into a habit of performing labs and memorizing them. That's not learning. It's a form of learning, but it is not the kind of learning I want to do. So I'm going to do one of the foundation labs because I've done them, because I've graded myself on them. I'm going to find out which one I did the poorest on and do that one again, because I want to be able to show that from the last time I did one of those to where I am now, halfway through my journey, I want to be able to show an upward trajectory of growth and learning. And the only way to do that is to test again and to see if I really have improved. And so that's going to be my plan. So I think on Sunday is going to be my big lab day. And I'm going to do one of the foundation labs. So if anyone wants to go ahead and get prepped with that lab topology, that is an INE lab topology. I recommend getting the INE workbook. You can get that from their website, which is ine.com. And you go to practice and workbooks. And it should be the first one here, CCIE Routing and Switching Workbook. It's $299. If you use the promo code, the new 10 promo code, which is in the description below, I think it'll give you 10% off for new customers. Definitely worthwhile. I plug it every time I do one of their labs because I really enjoy it. And that's where we leave off. So I don't think there's going to be enough time for me to do anything additional on my own custom lab here before I start my lab on Sunday. Saturday night, I'll get online and prep my lab, make sure it's ready, make sure I can log in, make sure the routers are good, and then we'll start the configuration on Sunday morning, which will be a lot of fun. That'll be halfway through my journey, which is I'm in full-on panic mode now. And we'll see what the next 50 days holds for us. All right. So it has been a really fun journey. I've had a number of other folks start their 100 days of labbing journey, and it has definitely been a fruitful endeavor for all those involved. Fruitful for myself and the folks that like to watch me on streaming, the folks in the Discord server, as well as the other community members who have started their streams as well. It's fruitful for them. They get to learn and lab, and then all of the people who get involved in their streams and their labs, and it's just growing and growing, and it is really, really awesome to see that. Really, really cool stuff. So there's some other streams out there. I'm working on CCIE routing and switching. If you want to see CCNA security, Tom from Grey Wolf Packets is there, and then there's another guy, which is this plus that. I forget his actual handle on Twitter. Is getting ready to start a lab series as well. He's been working on his lab too. So definitely check those guys out. You can get in contact with those guys via Twitter. I'm certainly following them on Twitter, or you can join the Discord server. There's a link below, and those guys like to hang out in there as well. So that wraps it up for me today. Thank you very much. See you guys maybe Sunday night, maybe Saturday night, but definitely Sunday we will be labbing. Enjoy your weekend.